Henri Cartier-Bresson, often hailed as the eye of the century, remains a revered figure in photography, renowned for his exceptional composition and intuitive vision. Even to decades after his passing, his influence endures. Are his techniques still pertinent? Can modern photographers glean insights from his candid portraits? Let's delve into the lessons imparted by this photographic master to find out. Born near Paris in 1908, his journey in photography begins with the encounter of giants. Firstly, the French photographer Eugene Aichet, who pioneered modern photography with his often wide-angle photographs of Parisian streets, old trades, as well as parks and shop windows with reflections. He will thus pave the way for the eminent surrealist photographers like Man Ray and Herbert Bayer. Subsequently, the American Walter Evans, as they both were enamored with freedom, steeped in literature, painting, and shared the same desire for social critique. Without the challenge posed by the work of Walter Evans, I don't think I would have remained a photographer, said Henri. The Frenchman traversed the United States for 3 months with the poet John Malcolm Brennan, to the extent that he would declare, "It is America that made me." His photographs were exhibited there as early as the 1930s, at the Julian Levy Gallery in New York, then at the Museum of Modern Art in 1947, where he is described as a historian artist, even though his first exhibition in France did not take place until 1955. However, it must be acknowledged that it is upon encountering a photograph by the Hungarian photographer Martin Lankacsy that the young Henri Cartier-Bresson, at the age of 23, decides to devote his life to photography. This image, depicting children running towards Lake Tanganyika, strikes with its perfect mastery of framing and composition. I suddenly understood that photography can capture eternity in an instant, he recounted. It is the only photograph that has influenced me. There is such intensity, such spontaneity, such joy of living, such wonder in this image that it still dazzles me today. The perfection of form, the sense of life, an unparalleled tremor. The first fundamental lesson of this masterclass, for any beginner photographer, or even experienced ones, is to explore and understand their artistic influences. Henri used to say that for him, the great passion is photographic shooting, born of intuition, the result of frequenting museums and art galleries, reading, and a hunger for the world. And you, who are your masters, could you name 2, 5, or 10 photographers or artists who have influenced you? Let me know in the comments. Saul Leiter or Ernst Haas, Alex Webb or Joel Meyerowitz, Elliot Erwitt or Dado Moriyama. A student at André Lot's Academy from 1926 to 1928, Cartier-Bresson learned classical geometry and composition rules, initially applying them to painting before experimenting with his camera. His early images often adhered to the golden ratio. From autumn 1930, during his time in Africa, he embraced the formal innovations of new vision photography, characterized by novel angles, close-up shots, and dynamic compositions. These images, distinct from ethnographic views, capture the rhythm and everyday life of Africans. Let's go back in time to the 1930s to discover first a picnic on the banks of the Marne, south of Paris. In an atmosphere very reminiscent of Impressionist paintings, the high-angle shot invites the gaze to gradually descend from the foreground. On the left, the man with the hat pouring himself a drink towards the boat. The eye is skillfully guided, step by step, by a succession of 4 horizontal planes. At each plane, we take the time to discover the characters from behind, somewhat as if we were also sitting in the grass. Apart from this highly immersive composition, we notice that the photo is divided according to the rule of 2/3, 1/3, obviously, on the horizontal plane by a line that separates the land from the river, but also, more subtly, by a vertical line that touches the bow of the boat. One might even question whether the main subject of this photo is ultimately not this boat. Finally, the composition lines are particularly well crafted here. They give a sophisticated and very balanced composition to this iconic photograph. Let's now focus on this photograph from 1933, Alicante, Spain. These three women's faces, so close, turned towards the photographer, structured the image. But it's too quick to stop just there. Just below this horizontal line, a new line emerges, that of hands and fingers. They touch delicately and serve to connect each of the three women. The brilliant composition is based on the rule of thirds, a woman per third, and a very beautiful convergence of lines towards the hands. Centered, the two touching hands constitute indeed the momentum of this photograph. One could define this concept as the detail that, because it touches, prompts the photographer to press the shutter. Roland Barthes spoke of punctum. To define this unpredictable moment, let us notice the pointing finger, seemingly saying, "This is where the important element is, this is where you should look." In this other photo, appreciate how the legs of this elegant woman draw this beautiful Baroque diagonal. The street scene captured in Valencia, Spain in 1933, is still a sublime example of composition. It's worth noting that it does not depict a scene of war, set against a backdrop reminiscent of a theater. Framed by weathered white walls like screens, unfolds a scene of children at play. They are happy, enjoying themselves. Although the child with crutches in the foreground adds a tragicomic dimension to the scene. We are not far here from surrealist influences. The composition skillfully distinguishes between the different groups. However, it is indeed the two guiding lines that give this photo all its power. Indeed, following the oblique of the wall, they both converge towards the punctum. That child with a side look, perhaps he is like the woman of the Spanish Civil War of 1936 looming ahead, and the massacres as depicted in Picasso's 1937 painting, Guernica. Two other examples of highly thoughtful composition, with intersecting diagonal lines to perfectly mark the centered subject, are Salerno and Island of Sifnos. These photos are particularly beautiful because perhaps these two children are captured just before disappearing, at the corner of a street or at the top of stairs behind the houses. To go where? To do what? Captured in the 1930s but forever immortal. The introduction of compact cameras like his initial Leica I enabled Cartier-Bresson to shoot with spontaneity, intuition, and precision. It also granted access to locations previously deemed too perilous or inaccessible for larger, slower cameras, such as the bullring, which even the most daring photographers had avoided. This photograph shows the inside doors of the Valencia arena, from the vantage point of the bull. To make this picture of an attendant watching the action from a small rectangular window, Cartier-Bresson entered the ring, enjoyed this composition, where each line meticulously structures the image. Did you notice that the structure on the right side is mirrored on the left, to create an incredible balance? More subtle but almost more important, this complex composition reflects the influence of Cubism on the artist's work. The simple geometric elements of the rectangle and the circle are everywhere here and complement each other to abolish perspective. The rectangles, the first being, of course, the 24 by 36 format, and the second as if inserted. The frame of the man with glasses further reinforces the implementation of the rule of thirds with the composition of circles. This iconic photograph takes us on the paths of abstraction, a final nod from Master Henri. This number 7, did you know that in numerology, it symbolizes harmony and perfection? But the genius of Cartier-Bresson lies in the fact that he doesn't settle for just this perfect framework. In this photo, called Livorno, what strikes is the combination of chance and construction. It's a crossroads of poetry, exalting the magical circumstantial. In other words, of chance and geometric language. The wind moves the curtains not right where the man's head reading the newspaper is located. The third teaching of this masterclass highlights the decisive moment. This photo, taken behind the Gare de Saint-Lazare in 1932, is an emblematic example of the decisive moment. It wasn't framed through the viewfinder of his Leica to capture it. He wedged his small Leica between two planks of the fence and shot instinctively, resulting in framing a piece of wood. It's one of the few photos with confirmed cropping. As shown by the cut negative I ate it, he would say. Many may attribute it to luck, but that wouldn't do justice to one of the most iconic photos of the 20th century. Firstly, because it's an image that wouldn't exist without the decisive moment. It loses its meaning if it had been taken at T1 or T+1. At T+1, the walker's heel would have touched the water, causing ripples and preventing the multiple doubling effects that construct this image. Reflections in the water, but also doubling of subjects such as the rails echoing the word or Alowski at T1. The character wouldn't have been in the extended position that echoes the silhouette appearing on the circus poster in the background. Henri Cartier-Bresson goes beyond the idea of the decisive moment. The concept of explosion fixe, also defined by André Breton, which perceives things simultaneously in motion and at rest, deeply influences the work of the French photographer. He appreciates the movement that animates lines and energizes the composition. When he presses the shutter button, he freezes the movement but captures an image that, thanks to its framing, composition, and rhythm, retains all the energy of the action. These three principles partly explain the photographic genius of Henri Cartier-Bresson. This is the fourth lesson. One must grasp the movement, the pulse of the world, and align the head, the eye, and the heart. It's a way of life. To conclude, let's take a moment to discover the photograph High Airs from 1932. First, a few seconds to savor this composition where all the straight and oblique lines converge towards the cyclist, slightly blurred and leaning to give the illusion of speed. More interesting are the guiding lines which, because they coil, seem to accelerate the character even more. The stairs, the railing, and also the sidewalk act like slingshots converging to propel the cyclist forward. It's an ode to rhythm served by a rigorous composition that allows us, beyond the mere notion of speed, to become aware of all the energy of the moment frozen in eternity. Thank you for exploring these photography lessons. Remember, let your heart guide your lens. May your photos tell stories and reveal the beauty of the world around you.